Part 1. You will hear a conversation between a customer and a travel agent discussing various holiday packages. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 7.
Good morning. Welcome to Sunshine Travel. How can I assist you today?
Hi. I'm looking to book a holiday, but I'm not quite sure where I want to go yet. Could you tell me about the packages you have?
Absolutely. We have a wide range of holiday packages available. Are you thinking of a beach holiday, a city break, or maybe something more adventurous, like a safari or hiking trip?
I'm open to suggestions. It would be great to know a little more about each option. Could you start with beach holidays?
Sure. One of our most popular beach destinations is Greece. We have a 7-night package to Santorini, which includes flights, hotel accommodation, and breakfast. Prices start at $850 per person, but if you book in the next 3 days, we're offering a 10% discount. This package includes a stay at a 4-star hotel near the beach, and you'll have access to a swimming pool and spa. Another beach option is the Maldives, which is a bit more luxurious. For a 5-night stay at a 5-star resort, it costs $1,500 per person, but this includes all meals and drinks, as well as a free snorkeling trip.
That sounds nice. Are the flights direct?
For Santorini, yes, they are direct flights from London. However, for the Maldives, there's a layover in Dubai. But we have an upgrade option to a direct flight for an extra £200.
Okay, that's good to know. What about city breaks?
We have some great city break options as well. Paris is always a favorite, and we offer a 4-night package, which includes flights, a hotel, and a guided tour of the main attractions like the Eiffel Tower and Louvre Museum. The price is $500 per person, but we're running a special offer this month, so you'll get an additional night for free. We also have packages for Rome, starting at $600 per person, with a guided tour of the Colosseum and Vatican included.
I've already been to Paris, but Rome sounds interesting. How long is the flight to Rome?
It's just 3 hours from London, so it's quite a short trip.
What about discounts? Do you offer any for groups or families?
Yes, we do. For group bookings of 4 or more people, we offer a 15% discount. Families with children under 12 can also benefit from an extra 5% off. These discounts can be combined with our current promotions, so you could really save a lot.
Great. Could you tell me more about the adventurous trips?
Of course. We offer a few adventurous packages. One of our most popular is a 10-day safari in Kenya. The package costs $2,000 per person and includes flights, all accommodation, meals, and guided safari tours. If you book in the next week, we're offering a complimentary hot air balloon ride as well. Another option is a hiking trip in Peru. It's an 8-day package that includes a trek to Machu Picchu. Prices start at $1,200 per person, and it includes a local guide, meals, and all camping equipment.
I'm definitely interested in the safari. What's included in the accommodation?
You'll stay in lodges and tented camps. It's a full board package, so all meals are provided. Each day, there are morning and afternoon game drives, and there's also an option to add a night safari for $150 per person.
That sounds amazing. How much is the deposit for the safari?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answers questions 8 to 10.
The deposit for the safari package is $500 per person. The balance must be paid at least 60 days before departure.
And are there any cancellation fees?
Yes, we have a tiered cancellation policy. If you cancel more than 60 days before your departure, you'll get a full refund minus a $50 admin fee. If you cancel within 30 to 60 days, 50% of the total price will be refunded. Unfortunately, if you cancel less than 30 days before, the entire amount is non-refundable.
Good to know. Do you have any other exotic destinations?
Yes, we have a package to Thailand as well. It's a 10-day trip with a mix of beach and culture. You'll spend 5 days in Phuket and 5 days in Bangkok. Prices start at $1,300 per person, including flights, hotels, breakfast, and a few guided tours. We're also offering a free cooking class if you book before the end of the month.
I like the sound of that. Is there any flexibility with the dates?
We do offer flexible dates for most of our packages, but it depends on availability. For peak season, like in August, the prices tend to go up, so I'd recommend booking early if you're looking to travel during that time.
Right. I'll have to check my schedule and get back to you.
No problem. Just let me know if you have any other questions. You can also visit our website for more detailed information on all the packages and promotions.
Thanks so much for your help. I'll definitely think about the Safari and Thailand packages.
You're welcome. Feel free to call or email me if you need anything else. We'd be happy to help you plan the perfect holiday.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 1. Part 2. You will hear a coach giving instructions to his team about an upcoming sports competition. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
Good afternoon, team. I hope everyone's feeling energized because we've got a big event coming up. Now, let's get down to business. First things first, the event is scheduled for the 25th, but we need to be prepared well before then. Our training sessions will become more rigorous, beginning next Monday. Please remember that practice starts at 6 a.m. sharp, not a minute later. Last week, some of you arrived late, but that won't be tolerated moving forward. This week's sessions will wrap up at 8 o'clock, but starting next week, we'll push them to 8:30. So make sure to adjust your schedules. I want everyone, especially those who missed drills last Tuesday, to be on time and fully committed. Also, don't confuse it with the evening drills. We're focusing on the morning ones for now. These practices are absolutely crucial and non-negotiable. Now, let's talk about the team strategy. I know many of you prefer playing defensively, but that's not going to work this time. We need to be aggressive from the start. Last time, we relied too much on defense, and we lost the momentum early, especially after halftime. So, we're making a few changes. Instead of keeping 2 players up front throughout, one of you will need to drop back into a more supportive position when we don't have the ball. This will give us more control and allow us to adapt better to the opposition. For those in the midfield, you'll have a more flexible role, covering both offensive and defensive duties. We might need to make a few rotations during the game if things aren't working, but only after assessing the situation carefully. Keep your positions disciplined, but be ready to shift depending on how the game unfolds. Let's not forget about the equipment. I don't want any confusion on the day of the event. Everyone needs to bring their own gear. Make sure you have your boots cleaned and polished by Thursday. You will need to have a backup pair as well.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
The weather forecast is unpredictable, so be ready for both wet and dry conditions. Yes, we'll be outdoors, but they're predicting rain for the afternoon. Still, it could change, so be prepared for anything. Also, bring both your red and blue jerseys. I know some of you were confused last time. The official color is red, but you'll need the blue one just in case we have to swap during halftime. Now, on to the schedule. We'll be leaving for the venue at 7 a.m. sharp. The bus won't wait for anyone. Make sure you're there 15 minutes earlier because we need to do a head count. The match is scheduled for 9:30, but we'll be at the venue by 8 to give us plenty of time to warm up. Last time, a few of you were too relaxed during warm-up, and that cost us. We can't afford that this time. Stick to the routine, 10 minutes stretching, 15 minutes jogging, and then we'll run some passing drills for 20 minutes. After that, a quick tactical review before heading into the game. And speaking of tactics, pay attention here. We need to switch our focus quickly between defense and attack. We can't afford slow transitions. Our opponents, the Ravens, are known for their speed on the wings. We need to counter that by focusing our play down the middle. However, if the wings are open, don't hesitate to use them. Be versatile and ready to change tactics on the fly. Mia, you'll lead the midfield with James, but you'll also need to be prepared to move to the right side if we need extra cover. That's why I've assigned Tom to float between midfield and defense, filling in where necessary. Remember, communication is key. I noticed last time that some of you were quiet on the field. You have to talk, especially when we're under pressure. If you see something, say something. That includes off-the-ball movement. I don't want to see players drifting out of position. Stick to your zones unless instructed otherwise. Lastly, don't forget the nutritional side. It's important that you fuel up properly the night before. Avoid heavy meals, something light but full of energy. No fast food. Stick to carbs and lean proteins. And stay hydrated. I've noticed some of you cramping up during the last quarter. You can't let that happen again. Start drinking water and electrolytes at least 48 hours before the game. Bring your own water bottles for practice and the event. Oh, one more thing before I forget, injuries. If anyone has even a minor issue, let me know before Friday. I won't risk anyone's health for one game, no matter how important it is. We've got plenty of subs, so don't feel pressured to play through pain. We'll rotate players as needed, especially in the second half. Speaking of which, substitutes will be based on how we're doing at halftime. If we're leading, I'll bring on fresh legs. If we're behind, we'll change the formation and push harder.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear two friends, Mary and Jack, discussing their opinions on a recently released film called Urban Shadows. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Jack. Have you seen that new film, Urban Shadows? It's getting a lot of buzz, and I was curious to know your thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I watched it last weekend. It's definitely making waves. But, to be honest, I had mixed feelings about it. How about you?
Well, I watched it too, and I have to agree with you there. The storyline had potential, but there were some things that didn't quite click for me. For example, the pacing felt off at times. I mean, one moment, the characters are in a high-speed chase, and then, suddenly, they're having these long, philosophical conversations.
Exactly. That's one of my biggest issues. The transition between action and dialogue was jarring. I think the director tried to balance fast-paced scenes with deeper emotional moments, but it didn't always work. It almost felt like two different films merged into one. That being said, I thought the cinematic was stunning. The urban landscape really came to life.
Oh, definitely. Visually, it was impressive. The use of lighting and shadow gave the city a kind of gritty, yet almost mystical vibe. But then, the plot seemed a bit cliché. How many times have we seen the lone wolf hero fighting corruption narrative? It felt like I was watching something I'd seen before.
I get what you mean. The whole underdog trope is pretty overused. However, I thought the twist near the end, where the supposed villain turns out to be working for the hero, was clever. I didn't see that coming.
True, the twist was unexpected, but I'm not sure it was enough to redeem the rest of the film. Also, the character development felt flat. The protagonist, Ryan, was intriguing at first, but by the end, I felt like I didn't know him any better. He remained this mysterious, brooding figure throughout.
That's a fair point. I think the writers could have done more to flesh out his backstory. We got hints of his troubled past, but nothing was ever fully explained. And the female lead, Sarah, was underused. She seemed like she'd be a central character at the start, but then she faded into the background as the story progressed.
Yes. That bothered me too. Sarah had so much potential, but she ended up just being a side character. I wish we saw more of her perspective. In fact, her role could have added an interesting dynamic to the whole corruption theme. Instead, she was sidelined.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
It's strange, right? It's like they set her up to be important, and then, nothing. But speaking of the corruption theme, I thought the film did a decent job highlighting the modern-day struggles of the city, like inequality and the power imbalance between the elite and the working class. It was relevant, given today's political climate.
That's true. The social commentary was quite strong, especially in the scenes where the local community was shown fighting back. It wasn't subtle, but it was powerful. However, I felt the dialogue became a bit preachy at times. Instead of letting the audience figure things out, the characters would spell everything out.
Yes. That's what frustrated me. It's almost like the filmmakers didn't trust the audience to pick up on the underlying messages. I prefer films that challenge you to think rather than spoon-feeding everything. But I can see why it resonated with some viewers. The message is very much in line with current issues, and people can relate to that.
Agreed. And I suppose that's why it's getting so much attention. The themes of justice, corruption, and the fight for a better future are universal. But I can't help feeling like it missed the mark in terms of originality. It's not just about having a powerful message, the way it's delivered matters too.
For sure. I also noticed the soundtrack. Did you find it distracting at times? Some scenes felt overly dramatic because of the music. It was like the composer was trying too hard to tell us how to feel in every moment.
Yes. That was another thing that didn't sit right with me. The music was good on its own, but in certain scenes, it overshadowed the dialogue. It's a shame because the actors were actually quite good. I especially liked the actor who played the antagonist. He brought this intensity to the role, even if the character wasn't written as complex as he could have been.
Oh, definitely. His performance was a standout for me too. He had this cold, calculating presence that made him believable, even when the script didn't give him much to work with. I guess that's a testament to his acting skills.
It's interesting you say that. Sometimes strong performances can elevate a mediocre script. In this case, the cast did their best with what they were given, but I wish the writing had been sharper. The dialogue, in particular, felt clunky at times, especially in those deeper, philosophical moments we talked about earlier.
I know, right? It felt like the writers were trying too hard to be profound. Sometimes, less is more. Still, I can't deny that the film had its moments. The action scenes were well executed, and the ending left me thinking, even if I wasn't completely satisfied with how we got there.
Same here. It was definitely a mixed experience for me. I wouldn't say it's a must-watch, but it does raise some important points. Maybe with a bit more refinement, it could have been something truly special.
Exactly. It's one of those films where you appreciate the effort and the message, but it doesn't quite stick the landing. I'm curious to see what the director does next, though. There's definitely potential there.
Me too. Hopefully, they'll learn from this and come back with something even better. Anyway, I'll catch you later. We should definitely talk more about it once more people have seen it.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4. You will hear a veterinary specialist giving a lecture on the advances in animal breeding techniques. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about a fascinating topic that has greatly impacted both agriculture and food production: advances in animal breeding techniques. For centuries, humans have bred animals for specific traits, trying to improve qualities like milk production, meat quality, or even animal temperament. But what began as a slow, trial-and-error process has become a highly scientific and efficient field, thanks to modern techniques. Let's dive into how animal breeding has evolved and where we are today. Animal breeding started thousands of years ago when humans first domesticated animals like dogs, cows, and sheep. Early farmers noticed that some animals were better suited for particular tasks than others. For instance, some cows produced more milk, or certain sheep grew thicker wool. By choosing animals with desirable traits to breed, farmers gradually improved the performance of their livestock. This method, known as selective breeding, was practiced for centuries and forms the basis of what we now call traditional breeding. Traditional breeding involved pairing animals with desirable characteristics in the hope that these traits would pass down to their offspring. However, this process was often slow and unpredictable. A farmer might breed 2 strong horses, but the resulting foal could still be weak. It took many generations of selective breeding to establish consistent traits in a herd or flock. Still, despite its slow pace, traditional breeding led to significant improvements in agriculture. For example, dairy cows today produce much more milk than their ancestors from just a century ago, thanks to years of selective breeding. Things began to change dramatically in the 20th century. The discovery of genetics opened up new possibilities for animal breeding. In 1865, Gregor Mendel's work on plant inheritance laid the foundation for understanding how traits are passed from parents to offspring. Scientists soon realized that these principles also applied to animals. By understanding genetics, breeders could make more informed decisions, leading to quicker and more reliable improvements in livestock. One of the most significant advances in animal breeding came with the development of artificial insemination, or AI. This technique, which was first used widely in the 1950s, allowed farmers to breed animals without needing them to be physically together. Instead of relying on natural mating, breeders could collect sperm from a high-quality male and use it to inseminate multiple females. This made it possible to spread the genes of superior animals far more efficiently. A single bull, for example, could father hundreds or even thousands of calves. AI revolutionized animal breeding, particularly in dairy cattle, where it's still used extensively today. Following the introduction of artificial insemination, another major development was the use of embryo transfer. This technique allows embryos from genetically superior females to be transferred to other females for gestation. Embryo transfer is particularly useful in species where the number of offspring per pregnancy is low, such as cattle or horses. It allows breeders to maximize the reproductive potential of their best females, producing more high-quality animals in a shorter amount of time. In more recent years, advances in genetic technology have taken animal breeding to a whole new level. The sequencing of the genomes of many farm animals, such as chickens, pigs, and cattle, has given breeders an unprecedented level of insight into the genetic makeup of their animals. This information allows for what is known as genomic selection. In genomic selection, breeders use genetic markers to predict how likely an animal is to possess certain desirable traits. This makes the breeding process even more precise and efficient. For example, if a farmer wants to breed cows that produce more milk, they can use genomic data to identify the best animals for that purpose, long before the animals even reach maturity. Another recent advancement is cloning. Although it's still a controversial topic, cloning has been used in livestock breeding to create exact genetic copies of superior animals. The most famous example is Dolly the sheep, the first mammal cloned from an adult cell in 1996. Cloning allows farmers to reproduce animals with ideal traits, such as high milk production or disease resistance. However, it's a costly process and has not been widely adopted for commercial farming. Yet, with all these technological advances, there are concerns and challenges. One of the primary issues is genetic diversity. As breeders focus on producing animals with specific traits, the gene pool can narrow. A lack of genetic diversity can make a population more susceptible to diseases and environmental changes. To address this, many breeders and scientists are now working to maintain genetic diversity while still improving animal performance. Another challenge is animal welfare. As breeding techniques become more sophisticated, there's a risk of pushing animals too far in pursuit of performance. For instance, dairy cows have been bred to produce large amounts of milk, but this can sometimes lead to health problems. Ethical concerns are also raised regarding practices like cloning and genetic modification, with some questioning whether it's right to interfere so directly with nature. Despite these challenges, the future of animal breeding looks promising. With ongoing research into genetics, scientists are exploring new ways to make animal breeding even more efficient and sustainable. One exciting area of research is gene editing. Unlike traditional breeding, which relies on selecting for existing traits, gene editing allows scientists to directly modify an animal's DNA. This could be used to enhance beneficial traits or even introduce new ones, such as disease resistance or heat tolerance. Despite these challenges, the future of animal breeding looks promising. With ongoing research into genetics, scientists are exploring new ways to make animal breeding even more efficient and sustainable. One exciting area of research is gene editing. Unlike traditional breeding, which relies on selecting for existing traits, gene editing allows scientists to directly modify an animal's DNA. This could be used to enhance beneficial traits or even introduce new ones, such as disease resistance or heat tolerance. Advances in animal breeding techniques have transformed agriculture. What started as a slow and unpredictable process has now become a highly efficient and scientific field. From artificial insemination to genomic selection.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 4.